This video demonstrates replacing the top valve on the Gregson-Clark Eco-505 spray gun for coaxial hose. For this, you will need a 9mm socket or nut driver, number 2 Phillips head screwdriver, 8mm socket or nut driver, and a 7/16 wrench. Parts required are the top valve kit for coaxial hose, along with 2 3/16 compression sleeves. For this rebuild, we remove the gun from the hose by cutting it completely off. We're going to start by removing the hose barb and then taking off the top cover of the gun. The gun cover is held on by 2 Phillips head screws in the yellow nozzle. Next, we will need to remove the 3/16 tubing. To do this, we're going to loosen the nut at the top compression fitting along with the nut at the bottom compression fitting. To do this, use your 7/16 wrench. With the 2 nuts removed, the 3/16 tubing should slide easily from the gun. To remove the top valve, we need to remove the trigger assembly from the actuator arms. The trigger is attached with 2 Phillips head screws and 9mm lock nuts. When removing, set aside all hardware including the 4 nylon spacers, as these will be reused during assembly. With the trigger removed, the actuator arms can be removed from the valve. These are held on with 2 Phillips head screws and 8mm lock nuts. Set the actuator arms aside along with hardware. We will reuse these when assembling. To remove the top valve, unthread from the top of the gun. With the gun body stripped, we are now ready for the replacement top valve. When assembling the top valve into the barrel of the gun, always use a thread locking sealant. Thread the valve until it becomes tight and it lines up with the rear of the gun. Reattach using the actuator arms that we removed earlier. When installing the actuator arms, don't tighten all the way. We will need to make any final adjustments later on when the trigger is attached. A general guideline is to have the actuator arms run flush with the bottom of the top valve. Reattach the trigger to the actuator arms by sliding the screw through the trigger, followed by the 2 spacers. Slide it through the actuator arms out the other side, followed by the other 2 spacers, and then the nut. Install the new spring that came with the kit onto the valve. Slide the lower screw through one side of the trigger and install the plunger spacer. Then slide the screw through the other side of the trigger, followed by the lock nut. When tightening the lock nuts on the trigger, do not over-tighten. The screw should just start to stick out of the lock nut. This is tight. Over-tightening will cause the actuator arms to bend, causing the second trigger alignment to be off. With everything put back together, we will now double-check alignment issues. As stated earlier, the actuator arm should be level with the top valve. If this is the case and everything is aligned properly, we can tighten the valve. If any adjustment is needed, loosen the screws and line everything up properly so that the top trigger pulls smoothly and is in line with the bottom trigger. The final step is to include the new 3/16 compression fitting into the nut and attach it to the top of the gun. If you are going to reinstall this to the hose, you can do that now before replacing the gun cover. That was how to replace the top valve kit on a coax injection gun. For any questions, visit our website at gregsonClark.com or call us at 1-800-706-9530.